Yeah. Hi, Abhijit. Let me pull your profile and you help me run through your profile maybe for 1-2 minutes. What sort of experience and skill set you bring? What are the roles and responsibilities that you are handling right now in your current role? And then we can start the discussion from there. Let me have your bring your profile.
Hello Sanjay, thanks for inviting me. So I will go through my short introduction and then we can continue.
Yeah, here's the profile. You can help me through
That's
this.
correct. That's correct.
So can you explain like what sort of experience, what role you are playing and what sort of experience you have?
So currently I'm working as a CI/CD build engineer for my project, and my main responsibility is to write decoupled CI/CD pipeline for whole infrastructure. And my main work is to create a good workflow and create modules to create some template type of approach so that all other team can use. And we are into provisioning the basic infrastructure plus creating a lot of templates, because my organization is using Azure DevOps, and in Azure DevOps supports your template approach, so we can like create different modules, and then we can create a documentation. So even if my team is like complete for work and something like new getting started, so we can have a clear set of instructions how to do that. So we are you I mean here to apply organization level policy. So this is my base, top level thing. And in my project currently I'm working as a DevOps, and we are a team of 6 guys, in which 4 developers, two testers, and one is me. And we are handling total 9 applications in our teams. And my main roles and responsibility apart from CI/CD is Elasticsearch. So I'm also into migration. So migration sense, we migrate from on-prem Elasticsearch to Elastic Cloud. We do different kind of POCs. And we transform our legacy classic pipeline, build pipeline, and release pipeline to Azure DevOps YAML-based pipelines.
What is the
So this
classic pipelines you have?
the classic pipeline in the sense like a GUI based. So if you go
Okay,
to older ones of TFS, they are GUI based. So if I
okay.
just like simply building, just do drag and drop. But this is
Now
like
you are
a
converting
move.
them to YAML based
Yes,
okay
which
pipeline
using
as well.
Terraform. And here I'm for infrastructure deployment, I'm using Terraform. And we
Okay,
also widely use PowerShell, because we are not like using many tools. We just go through the whatever the platform dependency we have right now, because our team is small, and if we want some implement some open source tool or we want some licensing, so we need to convince all others. So that is like some
okay. Yeah, yeah, that's a
management
fair
decision.
thing. So which
So we
cloud
just
platform do you use to
uh
provision?
my work is on Azure, but
Okay,
a bit of like AWS, but not much. Just EC2 announcements and all. But mostly I work with Azure.
okay. All right. So basically we will have this discussion mainly around Azure DevOps, then Terraform and CI/CD DevOps concepts.
Yes, I.
Yeah. All right. Let me stop sharing. So once, what is the reason like why you guys selected Terraform while there are other tools within Azure like ARM templates and other things to create infrastructure? Any specific reason? And were you involved in that decision or?
No, it was before me. They already pre-decided. We have ARM template better approaches, but we like want to have a centralized monitoring. Like we want to control whole infrastructure through the pipelines only. We are not doing anything manually.
Mhm.
So at that point of time, we also need to write the documentation. As I told you, my team is like a centralized team, and we provide support for all other DevOps. So at that point of time, when we used to document with ARN template, is like totally. And also for Azure AWS, so if we're writing some modules, suppose for EC2 or for our VMs, so what we do, we created 2 modules, and we can set certain parameter types. So we just set 2 modules at the back end. We created a document name add EC2.
Mhm.
If someone is want to deploy EC2 in Azure and here, so they just need to provide an environment. The environment contain all basic like which
But
cloud
all this is
provider.
doable in Azure ARM templates as well, right?
But like but we have to write twice the cloud formation and all. But here just we asking our user to pass the required parameters, the name, the VPC name that we also use here, the subnet name also using here.
One,
So
one,
like
one
we just
question. One question I
Mhm,
have, Vijit. All your
mhm.
terminology is AWS specific, whether it's cloud
Both.
formation, EC2,
Yeah,
or so, but you are deploying
both
to Azure.
you can ask both now because I'm just working on both things.
Okay, so
We can't
you are
go at
multi-cloud. Your company is
multi-cloud.
deploying on to. Okay,
We
so
got
isn't that a good
both.
reason to use Terraform than going here and
No,
there?
there's one more. There is one more reason, like with state files. So what we do, like normally what we do when we deploy to the Terraform, we just got a state file in local or S3. But here we are managing these things using our NoSQL database. So in my case, CMDB, because we're using Azure DevOps. So we just what we do, we got the output state file, we upload that to our CMDB, and in case of multiple application dependencies, so if it is an S3 bucket, I can't get out output through the dot operators. But when we are uploading that thing there, we can just apply dot operator fetching that. So I'm giving an example. Service bus that we are using in Azure and our three applications used to create subscription and topics. So service bus we use to deploy as we call it environment deployments, a basic set. Each environment contains one service bus. So in case of multiple dependency, all environment doesn't need to create the services. We just fetch that from our CMDB, the output and the service bus resource ID, and we're reusing that. So using this approach, it will be like more helpful for us to control whole environment, and we just do not need to reinvent the wheel every time. We just go straight forward.
Okay, okay, cool. Are you certified on any technologies,
Yes,
Vijit?
it's a client requirement, so I just done the Azure certification.
Mhm. What material
But
you
I'm
used
not.
for the certifications?
So here, first of all, we used like just what Linux Academy. They provided me subscription for a month, and
Mhm.
in my organization, we got certain groups. So in that group, they always keep providing like they provide instructor based trainings. We can
Okay,
go through Linux Academy. Also, if I want to go for the certification, I have to pass the test first of all, like that we found in Linux Academy or Udemy. We pass the test, we submit our result, and after that we got the coupon and we are doing that.
okay,
So my organization is like I can't take a name here, but like they're very much supportive and and the managers they push you to complete one certificate at least in the 6 months. So we have like our performance also got monitored based on that, like 30% project feedback, 10% internal training, and 10% is that thing,
okay,
certification.
okay.
So
So
appraisal based
tell
on
me
that.
something about Azure DevOps. I have seen a lot of challenge in storing secrets, those kind of username, password, database credentials, or even to connect with some bucket, or how do you use those kind of to
So
store your
for
state file? How do you manage that in Azure
so
DevOps?
for Azure DevOps for secrets, so we use Azure keyword. In that case, we don't. I mean, we created for few basic variables. We used to store that in our variable groups. See, in release pipeline, I can simply save mask it, but when we create into the YAML pipeline, we
Mhm.
can't release like read at runtime variable.
Right.
So that was a major problem I faced when I was converting. I generated a JSON format. I tried to convert that. I'm not able to use that variable. So we implemented keyword approach. Here we use three levels. First, as subscription level. Suppose I'm deploying Elastic Cloud. So the secret got rotated every 3 years. We don't need to frequently change that thing, and it is one per organization or one per environment. We stored such kind of information in our subscription keyword. Then we got the environment keyword, environment specific information like resource group name, virtual network name,
So you
subnet
have your
name.
secrets, just to keep it short, you have secrets in your Azure Vault. How your
Yes.
pipeline gets access to those secrets?
We write the custom task. So like in our company name, we're just using that task.
Mhm.
So all we need to do, our environment secret keyword is default for us. So we just need to pass the environment keyword name. We just need to pass the environment name. secret name. It will fetch the secrets and using like write output, write host and WC, the VSO, something like that. So we just store that in our stage. So we can, that secret is accessible throughout the stage. So here we don't need to like care about the encryption and decryption thing if I using Azure DevOps. So we created a, I mean, like our own custom task for uploading. Also, we had the same thing. We write our custom task that like we providing the name of the secret value, and
Okay.
after that it's checking like version is there. If not, we have to upload that. So like this.
Okay, cool. One question, like you mentioned few benefits and how you have set up your Terraform environment. Do you see any issues with Terraform? Have you observed that, okay, if we would have not used Terraform, we would have probably not faced this issue? Any disadvantage of using Terraform?
Disadvantage in the sense like at some places, like at personal level, I can tell you like some places my architect telling me use Terraform, but I'm more convenience using just CLI, just because when you are using the Azure Active Directory.
You comfortable with? Sorry.
No, I'm comfortable with using Azure CLI. All right, when
Okay,
we are
Azure
using
CLI.
Azure Active Directory for one scenario is there when I have to configure a SSO login for our one of our endpoint, and there I was facing problems while creating through the Terraform, but CLI is straightforward. We create a application, we add the users, adding the owners, and directly do this thing. And there also we don't need to use like state file. We don't need to maintain our state file for AD application. So this is what problem recently I was facing. So I think like if Terraform is not there and we are not strict toward that, it will be much easier for me to just use Agent CLI, ATSP, and app name and all the
Okay,
things.
okay, okay.
Because
Okay, so
sometimes we can't just do that. Like when we are rebinding our hybrid connection, we deploy application that is being used for on-prem, we have to rebind the connection. After deployment, again I have to use the CLI because we
so you
can't
are
automate
saying
everything.
that for your Terraform setup to be able to connect with Azure, you have faced some issues. That's where you struggle. Otherwise, it's all
Yes, so mostly we use service principal, which is again considered a separate app in ADD.
good.
So if I have to breach that boundary, I have to use CLI.
Hmm.
We can't
Okay,
just do directly
right.
because Terraform will use that service principal credentials to connect. But when we use with AD, we can't simply do that.
Okay, cool, cool. Any other disadvantage like while working? This is one-time issue, right? This login, uh, ensuring that your Terraform is able to connect with Azure is probably a one-time issue.
Yes.
But any
So
operational issue on day-to-day basis, like the resource creation
I
maybe
found it
taking.
useful just because like sometimes like I'm not a guy who like support clients. There was operations team who is handling those kind of scenarios. So sometimes if they needed, just simply create that thing on the
Okay.
Azure, and we have
Which version
mismatching
of
in our state file.
Terraform are you using?
We always use the latest stable, so like 1.46 is what
Okay.
we are using now, and we are strict to our deployment versioning. We always check like what are the compatible version if something is getting replicated and if it's affecting us. So we simply create a separate
Do
workspace
you
for
use
that.
Terraform modules,
Yes, we used to create the modules.
and do you also create workspaces?
Workspaces is basic for us. So whenever we are running any pipeline for deployment, we used to provide an environment name, and that environment name used to like on our build agent, we used to select that workspaces. So that is mandatory for us. Without environment name, we can't just do. So whenever I'm telling environment, just consider it as a workspace because we use have some different terminologies
Okay.
here.
All right. So environment is basically a workspace for you,
Workspace, yes.
and module is
So
entirely.
yeah, module is like the templates for us.
Okay.
Because when we are calling it template, so either it can be a Terraform module or a PowerShell functions. So sometimes
How
we need
many
to write the PowerShell functions here.
how many people usually the repository that Terraform has, how many people usually check in to commit to that repository? Is it just you or your teammates
Too
are also?
frequent, too frequent because like
Not too
each
frequent, but how
product,
many people?
If I can say our whole organization at 32 teams, so at least 64 guys.
Six plus, you saying?
64 plus. Because what
64 plus.
I just give me 2 minutes. I will explain what we are doing. We are using
Mhm.
Gitflow workflow. So in
Right.
that, each product maintain own repositories. For our DevOps, we create one repository. Here we are using share template approach. So whatever things got fixed, like it, this is suitable for productions, we just store there in a folder. In every deployment, we call that share template, and if you, every time we use the templates, we just use @share template. So we using this, we like minimizes our the deprecation or like mismatching in the deployments.
Okay.
So it is like for all DevOps, we have one repo. So every DevOps person who's deploying the thing frequently using that thing.
Okay. So
And
you
and
have
master
you
is
ever
was also
have you
sorry.
ever encountered an issue where because multiple people are writing, a state file gets corrupted?
We use DynamoDB. So in that
Okay.
case, every deployment we use to get a separate document ID.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's impossible. If someone is, like if someone is doing that, when till then we are storing that thing in our S3, we got such problems like not got updated properly or what.
Okay.
Then we start moving it to DynamoDB. So using document ID now is just save our life.
So DynamoDB is fast. That's why it happens, or
No, we used to search that document. The state, within the state files, we used to search our document output variables.
Mhm.
So when we're using that, so using metadata, we just provide the document name and whatever the using dot variable, it's just we are fetching through that.
That is
So
output.
like we are
That you're talking about Terraform output, right?
no, sometimes with the states also we do that because it is required in some custom scenarios.
Okay.
We have to store that
So I'm
because
I'm
when we
trying
are
to
state
understand
files now,
how
in
DynamoDB changed, that problem that S.
so when we are doing, I'm talking about the state file. The state file contains everything about that thing. In
Right.
output, we can customize, right? But sometimes we read it. Like suppose we take the example of our network
But that is not my
interfaces.
question, Abhijit. That's not my question.
All
So my
all right.
question is that you said 64 developers usually write to that Terraform repository. They commit to
Mhm.
that, and every time the state gets updated. So how do you ensure that your changes are not overwritten by somebody else's change in the state file? And
We have different folders now. Like for each product, like for deployment, also we use
Mhm.
separate folders. So
Yeah,
it's
but
not like
separate
from.
folder within same folder, people can work, right? If I'm developer number one, you are developer two, you make some changes, I make some changes, we push it at the same time.
So we have branches related policy here. So
Okay.
whenever someone trying to edit my changes, automatically I will be the default reviewer. Suppose
Okay.
I'm a team, another team, hosted team trying to edit my changes. They will create a pull request. They will be the optional reviewer. I will be the main reviewer. So if changes using branch policies, we
Mhm.
just get no. If my work is getting changed, so I must approve. So
Okay.
anyhow, I
But
have to
that
review
is a
that
very
thing.
good practice that you have set up. But if somebody has not set up that kind of environment, will it not be a major issue with Terraform?
Yes, it will be, and we face such kind of problems. We like suppose created a whole like spend a whole sprint searching for all strategies, and then we come up with this thing like who is the owner, take the ownership, and to like care about that thing.
So basically, it usually how it happens is that if you are checking in, you will let everyone know that nobody else should work on this for next 30
I
minutes.
can tell you the scenario here. It happened with me when I was like doing that refactoring our pipeline. So what happened? Some other developer is working on a code block. And in the meantime, I just refactor my pipeline. So I just break down the main template in three parts. Each stages have separate one. So what happened? I push my changes and he pushed the changes. So he made the changes in our main and my changes were overwritten over there. So this is the
Mhm.
problem happen, and this is why we like set the best business policies.
Okay. Can you give an
So
overview of in your Azure DevOps what are stages in the entire CI/CD pipeline?
yes. So in that case, I will just take activity API. So it's considered activity API as a tracker. Okay. So in that cases, we have three preconditions. We need to get Elasticsearch credentials. We need to create our own credentials, and we need service bus. Okay. So we create credentials, Elasticsearch, and transport. Three jobs running in parallel in one stages. After that, in second stages, I have deployments. In that deployment, I just creating Azure, Activity API. And with third, we used to do deployment validation text and the monitoring setup. So this is the four
So what is the
workflow.
first step? Sorry, what is the that first step?
Getting the preconditions because our applications are interdependent. Suppose
But where is
I
the
need.
build of the application here?
Oh, I forgot to say that because build is managed by the developer itself. So
Okay.
here we are again we while building. So once we does we set the branches based policy. Like if a master branch is built, we got the version number. If feature branch is there, then we got feature slash and the version number. For its bug again, same kind of thing. So if once a code is post, created a pull request, it will build, and according to the branch name, it will create an artifact. After that, once we got the artifact, we just use to store in our dashboard. So like a developer created a new version. He will upload in developer. Whenever I'm deploying, I will just pick up that name, that version number tag name, and while pulling in our deployment thing, I will just define that this is my repo name, this is the tag I want to, version number I want to use, and this is what like branch know. When we're using version, we just use version number. So building is not my part. So
So who
building
did
was
all this?
straightforward.
Who did this pipeline setup? Is it you or an architect?
Uh, the architect does that very initial level, but like he worked with before me, and when I joined, he just went on to another team. So like, I extended that thing, like refactoring the pipelines and setting up the whole workflow for like working thing.
Yeah, that
I
I
have done
understand.
that,
You are
but basic,
converting the TFS base to Azure DevOps. Have you made
yes.
any? Have you found any drawbacks in the pipelines that you are using? Do you see any possibility of further enhancing them?
Can you just explain me or like, can you
Do
just,
you have you found any issues with the pipeline that you are using? Any security tool, any test automation, uh, any unit testing? Have you found any such gaps that you have filled?
yes, we implemented Vera code for our compliance check. So
Mhm.
earlier they are using Black Duck, I think, but Black Duck we just plan to replace with the Veda code just because here we can apply organization level security policies. So whenever we're building that thing, we have to be compliant for whole organization, not for our team itself.
Black Duck can help you
So
in compliance. What is the issue with Black Duck?
I don't know, they just want to convert it to
Okay, so they found it.
like
Okay,
Veda
no
code.
worries.
And also like earlier when it was implemented by the architect, he just created one profile and different sandboxes. Later my manager told me create your own profile and change the name of the sandboxes. So using that I use. So this is one drawbacks. And again, like refactoring is the thing where I work majorly, like creating small templates. So once happened, like suppose I have two applications, like when I are deploying Elasticsearch, right? So there's one main cluster and second is monitoring cluster. In monitoring cluster, we don't need auto scaling, we don't need high RAM. So we earlier it was two templates calling the same API endpoint and deploying the thing. What I did, I just created one template and using different set of parameters to customize my deployments. And again, I refactored that to stages because we got inter-stage dependencies. Like monitoring cluster use two different additional stages for our like life cycle policies and for AD application integration. But our main cluster doesn't use that thing. So these kind of work I've done majorly, like enhancing our whole infrastructure thing.